Hello everyone, welcome to the Eternal Spoiler Breakdown. My name is Pojo, and today we are going to be talking about Echoes of Eternity, the new upcoming Eternal set. We have a new set coming out. Don't know a whole lot about it yet, except general themes, and we can talk a little bit about how those themes are being expressed in the one spoiler card that we have received, Dova the Fearmonger, a pledge 5/5. When you sacrifice another unit, draw a card, mastery 10, play possessed by horrors on the enemy player. So, we are looking at an entirely new set. It's going to be set in Zolta. Nightmares continue to plague Zolta. The general theme of the story will probably be based around the continuing sort of degradation of Zolta, as we can see in the spoiler art. It's got like a little bit of a there's a dying sun in the background. It's getting a little bit darker. Everything's getting a little bit more crazy, and yeah, that's the delightful and extremely nice setup for it. Like, it's a pretty good title card. It's a good name for a set. There's not too much to talk about in terms of like what the set's going to be looking at so far, but we have continued Aramot influence, which means lots more nightmares, lots more dragons, and probably a lot more nightmare dragons. So yeah, let's talk about this card, Dova the Fearmonger. There's a couple of things to note about this card. First off, it has Pledge, which we haven't seen since a previous set. Secondly, it's three colors. It's Fire, Time, and Shadow. We haven't seen a Nightmare in Fire or Time. I believe this is the first time that we've seen a Nightmare in either of those colors, but it makes sense for this set in particular because it seems very likely, and this is going to be all speculation from pretty much here on out, that this is going to be another three-color set. Not only do we have a color pairing that we haven't seen before, Fire, Time, and Shadow, but also we have the Pledge mechanic, which is very, very strong in three-color sets, kind of ties those sets together pretty well, allows you to pick up some useful extra cards and generally get some like better benefits. And in addition, this card expresses some three-color synergies that you would kind of expect. Like, Fire and Shadow are generally the sacrifice themes, whereas there's a little bit of it in Time, not very much, but we've actually seen a cultist that sacrifices itself, Eager Offering. So there's definitely some sacrifice synergies going on in these types of setups, and this is something where we're probably likely to see new displays, see new heroes that are going to be three-color legendaries. This might be one of those. New pledge cards that fix for those colors, and possibly even new cargoes or new smugglers. Not 100% certain about that, but it's definitely a possibility that could be in the mix. I believe all the smugglers are actually out, so yeah, no, all the merchants and smugglers are available at the moment, but there might be new bargains or something along those lines to play around with the idea a little bit. Bargain being kind of a middling setup in the previous one. It's going to be curious to see whether they decide to continue that theme. So, what's going on with Dova? Dova is reasonably well statted. 5-cost 5/5 is actually pretty decent. It doesn't like stand up super well against Sandstorm Titans and that kind of thing, but this is probably something you're playing in an expedition format and not necessarily in a ranked format. The when you sacrifice another unit, draw a card ability synergizes well with anything that you're doing with other options, like if you are trying to sacrifice off of Combust or off of Devour. Like, it's definitely something that you can get a lot of benefits out of by using like the Profane Nexus style of play, where you are using Nahid's Cultist, you are generally like making a lot of Grenadins or Totemites and then throwing them under the bus in order to generate even more cards. Gets you into some pretty good spots. If you could play it with Tazbu, it'd be pretty nice, but considering the exceptional color requirements that would be required to do that, I would say you've still got some pretty good options here. And of course, we do have Cheering section. We do have a wild amount of like interesting ways to generate lots and lots of tokens while also sacrificing them and just generally like sort of fulfilling on that theme. So it seems very likely that Dova is not only going to be like a hero in the format, but also a pretty good idea that this color triad, wedge or whatever you want to call it, is going to be something that you can basically do a lot of sacrifice play with. I think that generally like sacrifice is going to be a theme of that particular setup, and I think it's fairly safe to say that that's going to be something that you'll see a lot of, with Totemites being already pretty prevalent in the previous set and sacrifice already being a strong theme in the previous set. So yeah, lots of interesting things going on there. So let's talk about Mastery 10, Possessed by Horrors. We do have that card to show you, as it was shown off. I believe it's a little bit smaller, so it's probably going to show up a little bit different. Yep, there it is. Possessed by Horrors. At the end of the cursed player's turn, yeah, I don't know why this one's so low quality, but that's okay. At the end of the cursed player's turn, play a 0/1 Nightmare Dragon with flying that gets plus strength equal to the highest strength among units in your void. That's a 5-cost relic. It is not, it doesn't have a gem, so this is not a card that you can play naturally. Pretty important. It's also got some old art. This is the art from, I believe, the Cruel Ultimatum. I don't remember what it was called, but there was a Cruel Ultimatum type card that was had pretty good art and involved like sort of sacrifice energy. I think it was a Feln card, and yeah, I remember this art from a previous card. So cute recycled bit of art, which seems to be really, really accurate to the relic this time around. Yeah, but yeah, play a 0/1 Nightmare Dragon with flying that gets strength equal to the highest strength among units of your void at the end of the cursed player's turn. So that means that basically once per turn, you're going to be getting a pretty aggressive dragon. I like that this is at the end of turn, as that means that it doesn't generate an immediate blocker every turn, which is one thing that you really kind of have to worry about with the Kodash Sees All, and generally wasn't a great play pattern. This is something that just gives you a lot of dragons that also allows you to play additional dragons on top of your nightmares. Synergizes well with your continued like efforts to do like Draco Witch Razka and stuff like that. It's quite possible that we could actually see like a Draco Witch Razka deck that uses Possessed by Horrors and like some nightmares to set up different dragons. But mostly this is going to give you a lot of extra sacrifice fodder to sacrifice 2, while also allowing you to get some scaling reach with the fodder that you're playing. Like you've got some pretty good aggressive stuff that you can do pretty nasty nonsense with, like basically getting very, very large dragons means you can then bring those dragons across with Reconnaissance. You can resurrect them with Immortalize and make them very, very large weapons. You can play them with cards like Sozin Darkheart and get access to card draw. The synergies are pretty endless. There's a lot of interesting synergies, not only with sacrifice, but with dragons, with nightmares, if nightmares end up having any sort of nightmare lords going on, and with just general like token generation, as well as with relics. Since this is a high cost relic, it will trigger certain abilities, like if you're playing it, for example, in a deck that plays Lava Blood Goliath, it deals a lot of damage to actually get somebody Possessed by Horrors. It is a 5/5, and you do have to hit twice to get this mastery, so Possessed by Horrors is not necessarily something that you're going to be seeing a lot of in a format. The fact that it's a little cheaper than Burstboar Fern makes it more likely that that relic is going to get played, but I would say that primarily what's going to happen with Dova the Fearmonger is Dova is going to sit pretty still, generate a lot of cards for you with sacrifice effects, but not be as likely to get that mastery, since it is a pretty much like a remove on site type of card if you can play it that way. All right, let's size this down a little bit so we can get Dova back on screen. There we go, we're almost there. All right, so yeah, like overall, this looks to be like a pretty exciting set. There's obviously going to be a lot of action, a lot of fairly scary stuff happening all at once, so that should be pretty interesting. I think that we will see like all of the other 3-color pairings, but again, like that's just speculation at this point. New spoilers start on the 27th, so you're welcome to like buy those. They started the influence store at, I believe, something like 35,000 influence. It might be 65,000. I don't remember for exactsies, but it's basically going to be a matter of if you watch Twitch streams like for a reasonable amount of time, you should have enough influence to buy one. It's more going to be an issue of whether or not you can actually get to one, since they tend to go out of stock literally seconds after they go into stock on the 26th. There's also going to be a new bundle where you can buy 32 packs, about 1,100 gems, and an additional 500 if you buy it from the Eternal Store with a draft ticket. So look out for that if you are interested in that type of pack. I believe we talked about the value of that one last time around, and I'm still a little bit skeptical, but it's about the same as the previous pack setup from Flame of Zolta. So if you're interested in that, there's also a free card back associated with that. We're going to be covering basically all of the spoilers coming out for the new set. I'm very excited to see the next 3-color pairing set, since I'm pretty interested in all of that setup. You can buy the bundle right now, but like it's a pre-order, so you know, take your time if you need to. But all the same, like this is definitely something that like you can do some wild stuff with and should be pretty interesting. I'm very excited about the new set. Looking forward to a shift in the meta, changing around some ideas. I am a little bit worried about like what 3-color is going to look like with some of the current setups. There's some really interesting options available. Like many of the current dual color factions will have some really interesting influence abilities. I believe that we're due for a Time, Primal, and Justice faction, so that should be pretty interesting. Like, there's going to be some wild stuff and like some really powerful aggressive decks with Expedition, some interesting control options with Nightmares and Dragons. Overall, I think there's just going to be a lot of interesting new options available, and Three Color is going to be maybe coming back into the format for a while, so that should be very, very fun. All right, that's it for today, but we'll be coming back with more spoiler stuff very, very soon. This looks like a delightful card. The art on it's great. I think it's going to be pretty valuable in terms of Three Color stuff. The pledge fixing is very useful. It's got a really good passive. The mastery ability is really, really nice if you get it, and it's well statted. So all of those things kind of tie together very well into what should be a solid tier 2, tier 1 card, depending on what it is that you're looking at. And as to the set itself, like, well, we're certainly going to see, but it seems like an exciting start to the setup. So looking forward to seeing that and discussing the rest of the spoilers with y'all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time with more Eternal Spoiler Breakdowns. See you soon.